Good morning, my dear friends. I hope you all are doing great. Today we'll be talking about the structure of DNA. Okay? So remember the structure of DNA, double helical structure of DNA was proposed by Watson and Crick. Dr. Watson and Dr. F. Crick, they have basically proposed the double helical structure of DNA. What is that all about? You might have seen the structure like this of DNA in this pattern. So this is your DNA structure actually. So we'll be discussing in detail about this structure. It's from 5 prime to 3 prime and 3 prime to 5 prime. So this is the double helical structure of DNA proposed by Dr. Watson and Dr. F. Crick, correct? So my dear friends, before we go further, here we have two chains here, 5 to 3 and 3 to 5, two chains are there. These are basically two polypeptide chains. So in DNA, this is basically a double helix. So this is our DNA. It is a double helix. It contains two polynucleotide chains. Like proteins contain polypeptide chains, but our DNA contains polynucleotide chains. So polynucleotide chains are present in DNA. And how many chains are there? Two chains, from 5 to 3 and 3 to 5. So this structure of DNA was proposed by Dr. Watson and Dr. F. Crick, my dear friends. So let us understand it in further detail. Okay? Before we go further, I have here two polynucleotide chains. Yesterday we have discussed about nucleotide. What is nucleotide? Poly means many. Okay? And yesterday we have discussed about nucleotide. What is the nucleotide combination? Everybody knows about it. Can you self focus here? If I have a nucleotide with me, it contains three things. Yesterday we have seen. It contains a base, nitrogenous base, plus it contains pentose sugar, plus it contains phosphoric acid or inorganic phosphate. We can say phosphoric acid. Correct? These are the three things present in a nucleotide. And we know that the DNA is double helix. It has two polynucleotide chains. That means the polynucleotide means it contains large number of nucleotides. Every nucleotide will be having nitrogenous base, pentose sugar and phosphoric acid. But we know that we are talking about DNA. As we are talking about DNA, your nitrogenous bases can be adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine. So you can use any of these nitrogenous bases. Pentose sugar will be only one for you, and that pentose sugar will be yours deoxyribose. So you can use only here deoxyribose sugar in these nucleotides, correct? And your phosphoric acid, you can mention it as H3PO4 or you can mention it as inorganic phosphate like PO4 minus 3 like this. So my dear friends, your nitrogenous base can be either adenine, guanine, cytosine or thymine, any one among them. And your pentose sugar will be deoxyribose. And your phosphoric acid is H3PO4 or you can use PO4 minus 3, that's called as inorganic phosphate. You can use either this or this one, correct? Now what happens here, how this structure comes into the existence, what are the forces which are responsible for this double helix structure of DNA? Let's understand it. Before understanding it, have a look here. I need a sugar molecule, let's suppose. I will draw it here. I need a sugar molecule. So visibility is up to here? Okay. So up to here I will draw basically. Here the reflection is coming actually. So let's have a look here. This is basically our sugar molecule. We need not to draw the entire structure to show all kinds of bonds present now. And I showed you in case of nucleotides, okay, the sugar at carbon number first will be attached to a base. Let me say that base is represented here as A. A stands for adenine. So I am using adenine base. Adenine base is linked to the sugar at carbon number 1. Okay, yesterday I have shown you the nucleotide structures. Exactly like that. Adenine is attached to sugar. But you know that at second carbon you have H and H dash. That means this particular sugar you are talking about, okay, is a deoxyribose sugar. So remember, that's why I am mentioning it. Rest of the structure you are aware. This is second carbon, this is third carbon, fourth carbon, and then finally we have the fifth carbon here. CH2, okay, OH. And I have also shown you last time that this OH can make a bond with the phosphoric acid like this. It makes a bond with the phosphoric acid in this way, and water is lost. Correct? So I can mention it here now. So the bond formation will take place like this now. If I draw this phosphoric acid also, the structure will become bulkier, bigger. So in place of this phosphoric acid, what I am going to do, I will mention P. So understand that P stands for here phosphoric acid. Okay. So if for this entire structure, let me mention P here. That means this guy is fifth carbon of sugar is attached to the phosphate. Let us suppose this P stands for phosphate. You remember this particular thing? The P here stands for phosphate. Now, first carbon is linked to the base. Fifth carbon is linked to the phosphoric acid or phosphate. Let's call it as inorganic phosphate. Inorganic phosphate. Or you can also call it as phosphoric acid. Correct? This P. Now on the other hand, this is one strand. Think we have here two strands basically. Okay? So let me draw the one more strand on this side. Let me take on a nitrogenous base here. Remember always for adenine, the opposite base will be always thymine. The opposite base pair for adenine will be always thymine. Remember that thing. If I have here adenine in this one strand, the opposite base will be always thymine. So adenine and thymine will be always opposite to each other in a DNA structure here. So if there is adenine here, there will be thymine. Now we have here deoxyribose sugar. This is our deoxyribose sugar, correct? I have written it in this way, but in another strand means like we have two strands here, the 1 and 2, 5 to 3, 3 to 5. In this strand, I will turn this glucose molecule, this is actually basically the deoxyribose sugar. I will turn the deoxyribose sugar, in an inverted form. Like I will invert it, ulta, okay? So once I will invert it, it will be like this now. Have a look. So the sugar will be like this now, my dear friends. I have inverted the sugar. Let me call it as carbon number 1. Let me remove it for time being. Carbon number 2, carbon number 3, carbon number 4, and finally you have carbon number 5. Correct? And that carbon number 5, everybody knows, will be attached to the phosphate. Look here. Carbon number 5 is attached to phosphate. What I have done here, I have inverted this sugar. I took in one strand this sugar in this way. Here I have inverted it. First carbon will be always linked with nitrogenous base. So here also first carbon is here. It should be linked to the nitrogenous base. And here your nitrogenous base will be exactly opposite of adenine, that will be thymine. Correct? So your nitrogenous base is thymine here. Correct? So my dear friends, look here. First carbon of sugar, deoxyribose, will be attached with the nitrogenous base, and fifth carbon will be attached with phosphoric acid. In the same way, the first carbon of deoxyribose will be attached with the nitrogenous base, which is thymine, and the fifth carbon will be attached to the phosphate or phosphoric acid. Now between adenine and thymine, later I will tell you how many hydrogen bonds are there. That's our discussion for later. But you remember, this third carbon is here. Okay? Third carbon is basically H and OH. If I take here phosphoric acid, here also there is a possibility of loss of water will be here again. So due to loss of water, what will happen? This third carbon can also make a bond with the phosphate molecule or phosphoric acid. So I will show it like this now. The bond will be shown like this now. This will be the bond. But instead of this phosphoric acid, I can write down just P because I told you. Or I can write down Pi. It's my choice. Let's write down Pi, inorganic phosphate. So here also I can mention Pi, inorganic phosphate. Pi. That means the inorganic phosphate is attached at third carbon here and here at fifth carbon. And first carbon is attached to nitrogenous base. In this sugar, first carbon is attached to the nitrogenous base, which is thymine. And second carbon, everybody knows we have hydrogen and hydrogen here only. There is no OH group because it's a deoxyribose sugar, correct? So my dear friends, this third carbon can attach itself to phosphate. Okay? Here the same thing can happen. It can attach itself to the phosphate group. Okay? So this third carbon of the deoxyribose can attach itself to phosphate group, or I can keep it free. It has a choice whether to interact with phosphate or not. So let me keep this third end free here. Correct? So now between adenine and thymine, you should always remember by dashed lines there are two hydrogen bonds. Two hydrogen bonds are between adenine and thymine. Two hydrogen bonds. Let's go further. Let us draw the sugar once again. And we know that this sugar is basically the deoxyribose sugar. Again the same thing. 1, 2, second carbon H and H, 3, 4 and 5. We know that fifth carbon, if we look here, the fifth carbon is attached to the phosphate. Here also this fifth carbon will be attached to the phosphate here. Phosphate is already present, so it can attach itself to the phosphate. So fifth carbon attached to the phosphate. Correct? First carbon will be attached to the nitrogenous base. So let's make one nitrogenous base here. Let's suppose we have here cytosine. Cytosine is the nitrogenous base. Then obviously the third carbon of the deoxyribose sugar, it can attach itself to one more phosphate, inorganic phosphate, or it can be free. You can keep it free also, or you can make it to interact with inorganic phosphate also. It's your choice. Let's keep it free. This is the third end of the sugar. Remember, for cytosine, the opposite nitrogenous base will be always guanine. Guanine will be the opposite. But let us draw the sugar in inverted form now. Okay? So let's write it like this. Third end is free here. And here also let's suppose third end is free. Correct? Correct? Inverted form of the same sugar. And you know that this is first, this is second. Second means H and H only. Third, then here we have fourth, and this guy will be the fifth. Correct? My dear friends. Now, you know that the third carbon of the sugar can also interact with inorganic phosphate. So this third can also interact with the inorganic phosphate here. Correct? Now, the first carbon of the sugar will always interact with the base. Who is opposite of cytosine? Base. That is guanine. So here we will keep a base called as guanine. And between guanine and cytosine, my dear friends, there is a possibility of 3 hydrogen bonds. So we have here 3 hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds. Okay, my dear friends, we have here 3 hydrogen bonds. Now I can further continue this. Okay, so I can just use now another nitrogenous base here, like thymine I can use. Then opposite will be adenine. If I use guanine, opposite will be cytosine. So I can do anything, but this much is enough. This third end can still interact with which group? Phosphate, pi group. And this third end can also interact with here like a phosphate group. So my dear friends, if you look here, at this point if you look, let me write down this inorganic phosphate on the upper side. Okay. Which carbon of sugar is here? 5th carbon. And what is down? This is the 5th carbon here. And what is down? 3rd carbon of the sugar. It will continue the reaction or chain. So you are going from, look here, you are moving from 5th carbon here of sugar to the 3rd carbon, because 3rd carbon is ready here to grow the chain. Means this chain length can increase. Polynucleotide formation can happen through the 3rd end of the carbon here. So you are moving from 5 to 3. So I say that this polynucleotide will be from 5 to 3, 5 prime to 3 prime. But now if you look here at this structure, which carbon is this? This is 3rd carbon of the sugar. And which carbon is this, my dear friends? It can interact with the inorganic phosphate, then it can interact with another sugar. So this chain will also continue in this side, correct? Now tell me, here you are moving from 3rd, look here, you are moving from 3rd to 5. So I am writing here from 3 prime to 5 prime. My dear friends, now you can look here. In first nucleotide, polynucleotide, you are moving from 5 to 3rd, and second, 3rd to 5. Look here, 5 to 3rd, and here 3rd to 5 you are moving. So you have 2 polynucleotide chains here. And remember, there are 2 hydrogen bonds between adenine and thymine, and there are 3 hydrogen bonds between cytosine and guanine. Then you can do it, you can make it to interact with one more pi, then it will interact with one more sugar and all those things. It will continue, correct? So I will write down here, how many times here? I can write down here n times. That means it will keep on growing. And remember always, adenine will always base pair with thymine. So I will write down here, adenine forms a base pair with thymine. Okay, here cytosine will form a base pair with guanine. Look here, nitrogenous base, sugar and phosphate. So nucleotide, this is one nucleotide. Okay, then nitrogenous base, sugar, and you can attach one more phosphate here. So it's a nucleotide. So my dear friends, even you can also tell nitrogenous base, sugar and phosphate. So one nucleotide, nitrogenous base, sugar and phosphate. So another nucleotide, nitrogenous base, sugar and phosphate. Nitrogenous base, sugar and phosphate. So nucleotide, 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 nucleotide. So we are joining the nucleotides together actually. So now this particular double helix structure you have here, if I present it like this now, okay, so you will be having, if adenine is here at this point, this side you will be having thymine, and there will be 2 hydrogen bonds between them. Okay, if you have a cytosine here, here will be the guanine. If thymine is here, here will be adenine, correct? If here is basically the guanine, here will be cytosine. If there is a adenine here, here will be thymine. Thymine will always make 2 hydrogen bonds with adenine. Guanine will make 3 hydrogen bonds. Adenine, thymine can make 2. Guanine, cytosine can make 3 hydrogen bonds. Okay, that's cytosine and guanine with 3 hydrogen bonds. So 5 prime to 3 prime and 3 prime to 5 prime. You will be having a double helix structure of a DNA. And I also told you that this DNA molecule, what you have right now here, it will be stabilized by hydrogen bonds. These hydrogen bonds will stabilize the DNA structure. I hope, my dear friends, okay, DNA molecule is made up of 2 polynucleotide chains, okay, and between adenine will always make a base pair with the thymine. Through 2 hydrogen bonds, they will be interacting with each other. This polynucleotide and this polynucleotide, adenine will always make a base pair with thymine, and cytosine will always make a base pair with guanine. There will be 2 hydrogen bonds, 3 hydrogen bonds right out here. Okay, so this structure of a DNA was proposed by Watson and Crick. He said that DNA has a double helix structure which are stabilized by hydrogen bonds. Adenine will base pair with thymine and cytosine will base pair with guanine. And we will also discuss about the Chargaff's rule. Like the ratio of adenine and thymine will be always 1:1 in DNA. Cytosine and guanine ratio will be always 1:1 because adenine will always make base pair with thymine. So adenine should be always equal to thymine. Cytosine will make base pair with guanine. So cytosine should be always equal to guanine. That will be our Chargaff's rule, where the adenine thymine ratio will be 1:1 and cytosine guanine ratio will be also 1:1 in the DNA. So through this structure we can extend many concepts here. So please make note of this, and I will go to the other points here. So my dear friends, now you have learned about the structure of DNA here, correct? So now we will be talking about what are the different points which we can obtain from this particular structure. You should consider this structure as a double helix. Have a look here. So I open up this structure like this. So we have 2 strands here, 5 prime to 3 prime and 3 prime to 5 prime. We have 2 strands here, correct? So this structure can be written like this as well, as I told you earlier on. So it's a double helix structure like this. So 5 prime to 3 prime, 3 prime to 5 prime. So let us see the points what we have obtained from here. This structure was basically proposed by Watson and Crick. So this double helix structure was proposed by Watson and Crick. Correct. 5 prime to 3 prime and 3 prime to 5 prime. Second point we'll write down here. Let's start from here only. DNA has a double helix structure. That's our first point. Can you focus here? DNA has a double helix structure. This is the structure of DNA. Correct. Second point I will mention here that these 2 strains, this is strain A and this is strain B, let's suppose. Okay. So these 2 strains are held together by hydrogen bonds. Like this strand, 5 to 3 strand and 3 to 5 strand, these are held together by hydrogen bonds. So shall I say that double helix structure of DNA is stabilized by hydrogen bonds. So hydrogen bonds will stabilize these 2 strains of DNA. Strain 5 to 3 and 3 to 5 will be stabilized by hydrogen bonds. And between A and T there are 2 hydrogen bonds. Between C and G there are 3 hydrogen bonds. You should remember that particular point. And another point I will mention here, okay, 2 strains of DNA are anti-parallel. Okay, have a look. One strand is 5 to 3, the another strand is 3 to 5. 3 to 5. That means these two are parallel, but actually the things here are, it's from 5 to 3 prime and this is from 3 to 5. So I will call it as anti-parallel. If it is from 5 to 3 and this is also from 5 to 3, then they are parallel. But actually the regions are different. It's from 5 end of the sugar to the third end of the sugar. This is from third end of the sugar to the fifth end of the sugar. So these are anti-parallel strands of DNA molecule. So the two strands of DNA are basically anti-parallel strands. Okay? And you know that in DNA, let's write down another points in DNA. I hope you have written these 3 points. So now let's talk about the fourth point. Okay? From this structure we have understood. Okay, that is adenine will base pair with, so you focus here only, will base pair with thymine through 2 hydrogen bonds and cytosine will base pair with guanine through 3 hydrogen bonds. This information is very much important for your competitive exams as well. Okay. Now after this, let's talk about the fourth point. Adenine will base pair with the thymine through 2 hydrogen bonds. Cytosine will base pair with guanine through 3 hydrogen bonds. 3 hydrogen bonds. Focus it here. Okay. Now let's write down the fifth point. Fifth point will be, have a look. My dear friends, if you look at that particular structure, you can also talk about Kirchhoff's rule. What is that Kirchhoff's rule? Remember, adenine will base pair with thymine, cytosine will base pair with guanine. Adenine will be always equal to thymine, cytosine will be always equal to guanine. So I will write down the ratio of adenine and thymine, or we can say the ratio between adenine and thymine. Adenine and thymine and the cytosine and guanine will be always 1:1. Okay, the ratio between adenine and thymine and the cytosine and guanine will be always 1:1. Okay, that is said to be Kirchhoff's rule. Kirchhoff's rule. So my dear friends, adenine versus thymine ratio will be always 1:1 in between 2 polynucleotides. Okay, and cytosine and guanine ratio will be also 1:1. But remember, always don't take a ratio between adenine and cytosine. I am saying here adenine and thymine will be equal. So ratio is 1:1. Cytosine will be equal to guanine. Okay, so ratio between these two will be 1:1. Correct? So my dear friends, if this is, let us suppose 100, this is also 100. Okay, let us suppose this is 80, this is also 80. Now tell me, what is the ratio between adenine and thymine? 1:1. What is the ratio between cytosine and guanine? 1:1. Don't compare adenine and cytosine, because adenine and cytosine will be 80:100. 100 or 8 is to 10. That means here the ratio will not be 1 is to 1. This is only related to adenine versus thymine ratio and cytosine versus guanine. Adenine will be never equal to cytosine or guanine. Adenine will be always equal to thymine. So my dear friends, you can look here, the ratio between adenine and thymine, base pair, okay, we can also mention here base pair, and the cytosine and guanine will be always 1 is to 1. That is said to be which rule? Kirchhoff's rule. I hope you have understood, my dear friends. Please make note of this. So in this particular double helix structure of a DNA, okay, the distance between two successive base pairs will be 3.4 angstrom. Okay, so between any two successive base pairs, the distance will be 3.4 angstrom, and the diameter of this particular helix will be 20 angstrom. So please remember this thing. Okay, and remember always every turn of a DNA or double helix DNA does contain 10 base pairs. Every term contains 10 base pairs, and between two base pairs, okay, successive base pairs, there is a distance of 3.4 angstrom, and the diameter of a particular helix will be of 20 angstrom. I hope you understand, my dear friends. Okay, please make note of this. So my dear friends, now we'll be talking about the difference between DNA and RNA. Let's talk about our DNA first, correct? So DNA, everybody knows, it is a double stranded helical structure, correct? Now if we talk about RNA, what is RNA all about? Have a look. It is basically a single stranded, okay, polynucleotide chain. So it is only one, polynucleotide chain. You can draw it like this. Let's suppose this is your RNA. But when you talk of DNA, that will be your DNA like this. You can draw it. This is your DNA. So here you have two polynucleotide chains, and here in RNA you have only one polynucleotide chain, correct? So that was the first difference between DNA and RNA. And second difference is quite easier. If you look here, DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. That means it contains deoxyribose sugar. So it contains deoxyribose sugar. That is a pentose sugar, my dear friends. RNA means ribonucleic acid. So I'll mention here, this is the first point here. It contains, okay, ribose sugar. It contains ribose sugar. And you know that the nitrogenous bases which are present in DNA are, this thing also we know, nitrogenous bases in DNA are A, G, C, T, adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. And we also know that, okay, nitrogenous bases in RNA are, what will be the nitrogenous bases in RNA, my dear friends? Adenine, guanine, cytosine, and in place of thymine there will be uracil. So these are the nitrogenous bases present in the RNA structure. I hope everybody has understood. Okay, DNA has a property of replication. DNA shows replication. What is the meaning of replication? Replication means one DNA can produce its replica. Replica basically means its Xerox copy. One DNA can produce its Xerox copy, that is called as replica. Okay, but if you look at the RNA, it does not replicate. Means RNA cannot produce its Xerox copy or its replica, but DNA can produce its replica, exact other copy of DNA. RNA cannot produce other copy of RNA, Xerox copy of RNA or replica of RNA. I hope, my dear friends, you have understood this thing. And one more thing actually, you please make note of these 4 points, then after that I will give few more points. So my dear friends, now if you look at the DNA structure, it has large molecular weight. How much? Around 6 to 16 million you can say, or AMU, or you can say also Daltons. 6 to 16 atomic mass units. And atomic mass unit, in place of atomic mass unit, you can also write down Daltons. Okay. And if we talk about now RNA, point number 5, it has relatively smaller in comparison to this DNA. We are talking about here DNA. DNA, we are talking about here RNA. Okay. So my dear friends, it has a relatively smaller, or we can say low molecular weight. Low molecular weight. How much is that? Around 20,000 to 40,000 atomic mass units. In place of atomic mass units, you can also write down Daltons. That much. So if I compare RNA with DNA, then who has the more molecular mass? DNA, everybody knows it's made up of 2 polynucleotide chains. So obviously its molecular mass will be greater only. That is 6 to 16 million atomic mass units. Okay, or you can say Daltons here. Or you can simply write down U, unified mass. U stands for unified mass. All are same. Unified mass, Daltons are atomic mass units. And RNA will have relatively low molecular weight in comparison to DNA. It's 20,000 to 40,000 AMU or Daltons. I hope, my dear friends, these were some important points, and they were the differences between DNA and RNA. Please make note of this. So my dear friends, today we have spoken about the DNA, like the structure of DNA, okay? And I just told you that the DNA structure was proposed by Watson and Crick, correct? And it's a double helix structure. And then we have drawn, the structure of a DNA. And I told you that there are 2 polynucleotide strains in a particular DNA molecule. And one is moving from 5' to 3', and another strand is moving from 3 to 5'. And I showed you that these basically nucleotide chains, okay, wherever you have the adenine base, that will be hydrogen bonded with thymine by 2 hydrogen bonds. Cytosine will be hydrogen bonded to the guanine by 3 hydrogen bonds. And later we discussed many of the factors about the DNA, like DNA is responsible for the transmission of hereditary characteristics from parents to offsprings, correct? And the Kirchhoff's rule we have discussed, like wherein I told you that adenine thymine ratio will be always 1:1, cytosine guanine ratio will be also 1:1 in a particular DNA molecule. And with this, I would like to end today's session. Let's meet tomorrow. Have a good time. Yo. Thank you.